Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. My name is Kelly, and I'm a foster with a rescue in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. And today on the episode, we're going to talk about pet welfare from a little bit of a different perspective. I think we all know that one of the biggest battles that animal rights activists, rescue organizations, shelters, and people who just care about animals, one of the biggest battles that they fight is legislative battles, right? So maybe there are times where bills just don't get the attention that they deserve. It can take years and years and years for them to get passed through their particular state. We talked about Libre's Law in a previous episode where we talked about how dogs can't be left outside in unfavorable conditions past a certain amount of time or could be considered a felony. I'm going to talk about something that's positive that's happening in the state of Pennsylvania. And there are other states that have already passed laws like this, though, to be clear, it's not enough. But I want to talk about what's going on in the Pennsylvania House, and it's House Bill 97. So House Bill 97, which was sponsored, the prime sponsor of it was a Democrat in House District 45, Representative Anita Kulik, who is pioneering this bill, and she's really written it, is kind of called a pet custody and divorce case. Other states are calling it best interest laws when it comes to companion animals. But really what it means is it means that when we have a situation where a family or a partnership breaks up, how is a companion animal going to be treated in that state through the course of that ultimately probably a divorce, right? And right now, in most states, with very few exceptions, and Pennsylvania is going to be hopefully one of those exceptions soon, in most states, pets are considered property. So as much as you love your dog or you love your cat or you love your other companion animal, it's no different in the breaking up of the marriage than your couch or your car or even maybe your house. And so there are a lot of people that think that because of that, pets can be used as a leverage point when negotiating other assets in a divorce. So what does House Bill 97 hope to accomplish? Well, in looking at pets as members of the family, as opposed to looking at them as property, what they can do is a judge who's ruling or an arbitrator who's ruling in a divorce case can now rule in the best interest of that animal. So I first want to talk about what is being considered a companion animal and what that means according to the definition in the bill. Because it's not specific to dogs and cats, though that's primarily what we think about when we think about companion animals. But I do want to talk about what a companion animal means. So let me get to that exact text. So as defined by House Bill 97, a companion animal is as follows. An animal that is a domesticated, being commonly referred to as a pet, or has been bought, bred, raised, or otherwise acquired in accordance with applicable law for the primary purpose of providing the owner with assistance in relation to a disability, security, or companionship, rather than for a business or agricultural purpose. Notwithstanding, an animal that is used for business or agricultural purposes but has not been incorporated into the family household as pet may be considered a companion animal as determined by the court. So what that means is it's a very broad definition, but I think what's important to point out and what really surprised me about House Bill 97 is that previously, service animals were not treated any differently, right? So you could have a disability and your service animal could be part of the negotiation of the divorce, again, just as property would be, which is kind of wild when you think about it. And certainly if there's anybody out there that wants to correct my interpretation of this, I would be happy to talk to them. But again, this is how I'm reading the information on this bill, is that previously service animals had no distinction when it came to custody. And I think so important that not only do pets have that distinction and we do what's in the best interest for pets, but to me, it would be a no-brainer that a service animal would have an automatic distinction, but apparently they have not in the past. So this is a great bill to support. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about what it hopes to accomplish. The representative Cooling that was the sponsor, the primary sponsor for this bill, I assume her and her office wrote the bill, practices law. She was a practicing attorney, and she said that she witnessed many divorce proceedings in which a couple could not agree on the best arrangement for a beloved pet. At times, a pet can be used by one party as leverage against the other when negotiating the division of assets. So current law provides no special provision for pets. And so it's time that Pennsylvania established the following factors for judges to consider when considering the custody of a pet. Bullet points include whether the animal was acquired prior or during the marriage, which is obviously incredibly important, the basic daily needs of the animal, who generally facilitates veterinary care and social interaction for the animal, obviously also incredibly important, who generally ensures compliance with local and state regulations such as licensing, and who provides the greater ability to financially support the animal. So that is a little bit limited. I have actually read other bullet points that go a little bit deeper into the service animal side of things. I do want to pull up that part of the bill as well. So if the companion animal is a service animal, as that term is defined by another bill passed in October of 2018, known as the Assistance and Service Animal Integrity Act, for a party of an individual who is under 18 years of age in the custody of that party, there should be a rebuttal presumption of custody of the companion animal. So what does that mean in very layman's terms? If you and your partner are divorcing and there are children, and one of those children who's under the age of 18 has a service animal, then whoever has primary custody of that child is also going to have primary custody of that service animal. And again, I think for me, what was so important about highlighting this bill and the legislation that is coming in, Pennsylvania, is that this is not already an assumption. Like, it is wild to me to think that a child could go with their primary parent who has special needs, who has a service animal, and it's not just an assumption that that service animal would then also go with that primary parent. I am sure that there are plenty of judges that would have and have ruled it in that way anyway, but the fact that it's not written into law, therefore can be used as a leverage point, is kind of wild to me. I think we all have heard horror stories too of someone's ex, boyfriend or ex-girlfriend or whoever, ex-husband, ex-wife, keeping an animal as a leverage point. I actually have a personal story about that from many, many years ago. And I think it's so great that they're not just focusing on, who claims to care for the animal, right? Who might have more social media pictures of the animal or anything superficial like that. But who is making sure that the animal is licensed? Who is, the contact at the vet's office? Who is arranging for care of the animal? Who can financially afford to take care of the animal, right? Because that's another thing that we see in the rescue and in the shelter side of things is after a breakup, animals end up in rescue, maybe because they couldn't determine who would take the animal, or maybe because the person who does, keep the animal is actually not financially to do so, and maybe they were doing it just to spite and hurt the other person. And we all know that the real victims in those situations end up being animals. So as of October 3rd of 2025, this bill was referred to the judiciary in the Pennsylvania Senate. Now, I'm going to be totally upfront. I don't fully understand what that means. However, I am going to use context clues to help me figure this out, because obviously, as it is with government, a lot of this is very convoluted and as a layperson can be difficult to understand. On January 14th of 2025, it was referred to the judiciary in the House. And then from that point, other steps were taken through September 29th of 2025 when it finally passed in the House. So my assumption, if I'm reading this correctly, means that this is the first step towards passing this law in the Senate. So I'm going to do something that I don't typically do when it comes to the foster files. And I am going to challenge you guys, and I am going to request and put out a call for action. If animal welfare, is important to you, and if you are interested in seeing or being a teeny tiny part of this bill passing, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to your representatives in the Pennsylvania Senate. Again, it doesn't have to be in the House, because I want to make sure that you understand that by reaching out to your representatives in the Senate, you can send them an email, you can leave them a message at their office, and you can encourage them to vote yes on passing House Bill 97. Again, it's just such a little thing we can do, but we forget sometimes that these legislators, they work for us. We don't work for them. We don't owe them anything other than our voice. And so it's really important that when you find something that you're passionate about, you reach out to them and let them know how you feel. So here's the website that you can go to, and I will link it in the notes of the podcast. But you can go to palegis.us/Senate/numbers. Now, you can sort them by name, and they're listed alphabetically. And then below their name is the county that they serve. And of course, not every representative encapsulates an entire county. So you might have to drill that down under Find My Legislator, because they do have a handy little search tool here. But you can find the legislator that impacts your particular county. I'm actually going to go ahead and find my legislator. I think I know who it is, but I am not super great at keeping up on this besides just, voting, which is really important to me. So let's see here. I think mine might be Tim Ward or Joe Pittman. So I'm just going to click on Joe Pittman because his profile is right in front of me. And what's really great about the way that they have this set up on the website is that all of their contact information is right here. So you can call them, you can email them, you can reach out to them on their individual website, you can reach out to them on their social media page, and you can just send a note that says, hey, House Bill 97 is incredibly important. Let's pass it. I hope to hear that you have voted yes, or, however you want to phrase that. Reach out to your representative in the Senate. Now, if you are listening to this in a different state, you might be curious whether or not your state has a law like this. And again, unfortunately, there is a very small handful of states that appears to have passed what we call best interest laws. This is according to my Google search, so please understand that this could be fallible. But as of now, it does appear as if the states that have passed these laws are Alaska, California, Illinois, New Hampshire, Maine, and New York. It does say and others. Okay, the only expanse beyond that is Rhode Island that says considers the well-being, and Washington, D.C. that considers best interest. Alaska was the first state to require judges to consider the well-being. And again, it's Alaska, California, Illinois, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., and hopefully Pennsylvania. So if you are in a different state and this is something that makes sense to you and speaks to your heart, please reach out to your particular legislators and ask them to pass a bill. You can call it a pet custody bill. You can call it a best interest pet custody bill, whatever phraseology you're comfortable with, and reach out to them and ask them to participate in sponsoring a bill that will hopefully get passed in your particular state. So this is going to be a short episode because I just wanted to take a little bit of time, talk about that. Thanksgiving and the holidays are coming up. So I do want to kind of put a reminder out there that unfortunately, the holidays on the good side tend to be a time where a lot of people decide to welcome animals into their homes, right? So they decide to, get a cat, get a dog, get a companion animal for their children. Please make sure if you are considering adopting an animal that you are taking exactly the same amount of consideration into it at the holidays as you would any other time of year. Because on the flip side of that, one of the negative things that we see in shelters and rescues is we see people coming back not people, but animals being returned or surrendered to shelters and rescues after the holidays, right? So it gets to be January, it gets to be February, and now families are starting to realize just how much work an animal is, and the sort of the dopamine hit of getting a new animal right around the holidays has faded and is now replaced with behavioral accommodations or going to the bathroom in the house or barking or whatever. And because that decision was made in I don't want to say a hasty way, but maybe not for all the best reasons, it's easy to return that animal for not all the best reasons. So if you are considering getting an animal and you're just not sure if they're going to be the right fit for your family, maybe wait until after the funness of the holidays, or maybe consider fostering with your local animal rescue or your local shelter. That will really kind of throw your feet to the fire and see, does this make sense for you before you really make a commitment that maybe you're not ready to make. So that's all the information that I had for today. Again, it's House Bill 97. This episode is going to be released the week of Thanksgiving. I want to wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Please, actually, now that I'm thinking about it and wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving, please make sure that you and the guests that visit your home are aware what foods are safe for your pets to eat, and make sure that you have that available, or just ask all your guests not to feed any of your animals any table food, and that will be a lot better for everybody. So today in the Foster Spotlight, I actually saw this dog come up at Cross Your Paws. Last week, I believe, I saw his profile, and honestly, if we didn't already have Max as a foster, I think I would have wanted to welcome this one. I tend to like bringing in dogs that are older, as far as like being adults, dogs that might be a little bit more difficult, though this one isn't. But I'm going to link this profile, of course, in the show notes, but I want to talk about Bo. So Bo is a senior Chihuahua. And there's just something about his face that looks very sweet, looks very much like he just wants to lounge around in a home. And so I'm going to go ahead and read his profile, and that way you can get to know Bo. So meet Bo, a gentle soul looking for a soft place to land. Bo is a 9-year-old sweetheart who recently came to the shelter as an owner surrender. He's feeling sad, overwhelmed, and unsure of the noisy shelter environment. But underneath the worry is truly a loving dog just waiting for someone to show him kindness. Bo hasn't had much structure in his previous home. He used puppy pads indoors and isn't accustomed to walking on a leash outside yet. He's timid at first, but once he feels safe, he absolutely loves curling up on your lap. It's his comfort place. Bo is also carrying a little extra weight. Oh, poor buddy. He's blind, so a calm, patient adopter will make all the difference in helping him adjust and feel secure. This sweet boy deserves a peaceful home, gentle hands, and someone who understands that older pups need time, love, and consistency. If you're looking for a companion with a tender heart, Bo is waiting for you. So let's take a look at some of the kind of stats for Bo. Because he is a senior, his adoption fee through Cross Your Paws is $200 as opposed to the normal $350. He is at his max size. He's actually, according to his profile, a little over his max size, but who the heck isn't? He's up to date on his shots. They are not sure about him with kids. It appears as if he probably just hasn't been kid tested yet, which is fine. That doesn't mean that a dog wouldn't be good with kids. But if you also kind of take in some of the clues in his bio about him being blind, about him being unsure and not having a really structured household, then if you kind of have some of the craziness of kids, there's a possibility that adding a senior unsure dog like Bo might not be a great fit for your family. So that's just something to be aware of. He's not yet house trained. He is neutered, and again, they're not sure about whether he's okay with dogs or whether he's okay with cats. Now, if you listen to this episode and you go review his profile, Bo is actually in foster, so it's very possible and probable that his foster will update his bio and some of those other details as the foster gets to know the animal. So take a look at Bo. He really does look like a sweet senior guy, just looking for a soft place to land. Honestly, he kind of reminds me of Snowball, the way he just is like sitting on this person's lap in the pictures and hanging out. So Take a look at Bo. Consider bringing a dog like Bo into your life if you are looking for a dog to give a loving forever home. And again, have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Have a wonderful holiday season. And thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.